I welcome back to another video snippet from The President and the Cockroach. Especially with what's going on today in the news, you ought to read this and keep up with it. I'm just saying. But, so you don't have to invest anything more than a few minutes at a time. I'm happy to come every few days, a week or so, and read you another section. But you can buy a copy at Amazon.com. Yes, you can. There'll be a link underneath this posting so you can get this. I wouldn't. Yes, I would. Anyway, if you're ready, we'll begin. Here we go. And then the president did a little of the brainstorming that he was so good at. The first storm. The Environmental Protection Agency had published a report, for Bean's eyes only it appeared, investigating the negatives of those big spinning windmills that dot the western parts and some of the eastern parts too of the United States. The report concluded that first, they are ugly and no member of Congress should have to put up with them destroying the view in any of their districts, or at least the view from any of the property owned by a member of Congress. And secondly, eagles, yes, eagles, the by God symbol of this land, have been sliced in half by those gigantic unstoppable blades. And third, what are those big robot-looking things good for if there's no wind or too much wind? Hasn't anyone heard about the hurricanes in the Gulf and up the East Coast or the tornadoes in the middle of the country? The only thing to do with those big eyesores is to chop them down and sell them for scrap, which would help the lagging steel industry and provide jobs for the choppers. So this job creator was a win-win. The second storm, how to get more coal jobs. Presidents had been promising that to voters for a long time. You've seen those Nepalese salt lamps? They're good for your chakras and the rest of your health, but they are made in what amounts to in China. Americans should buy American. Federal government should institute a safety recall, and anyone who brings one of those commie salt lamps to a government center could trade it for an American-made coal lamp. More patriotic, snazzier, basic shiny black, and everything. The third storm, the budget. The president had been relaxing the previous Sunday and had turned on the 2015 ex-Uber Ant energy drink NASCAR racing series highlights. The little cars driving around and around soothed him and gave him an idea. Every car in every race was covered in advertising, decals, and wraps. And even from the back seat of the presidential limousine, Cadillac One, Mr. Beans had seen cars and vans driving around Washington, D.C. wrapped in plastic, advertising everything from banks to dentists to beer to vasectomies. And the companies doing the advertising paid big bucks to get their names out in public. Well, President Beans remembered that all over the country, in probably half the states and on all land owned by the federal government, there were these cheesy, poorly done drawings or carvings all over the rocks. Most of them looked like they'd been done by challenged 5-year-olds. They were protected just because they were old. If someone had done them today, they would have been arrested for vandalism. Those rocks could be wrapped in plastic, advertising everything from government programs to TV shows to cosmetics to burgers, and turn a profit for the government. People wanted a balanced budget. People want more health care. People want infrastructure. Booyah! Paid for. And thank you, Mr. President. And on a slightly different subject, President Beans noted that Adolf Hitler's telephone had been sold at auction in the United States the previous Sunday for $267,000. The winning bid was made by text, but the name of the bidder had not been released. The president checked his PayPal account, smiled, and closed his phone. There was a knock on the Oval Office door. President Bean's chief of staff was there begging his pardon. Ms. Levy, the new secretary of the Department of Healthy Humans, was requesting a private emergency meeting with Mr. Beans. The president told his minion that he would be happy to see the secretary. Ms. Levy walked in dressed immaculately from the neck down in a Pamela roller skirt and jacket outfit with tall gray suede boots. She looked marvelous. Out of the glare of the television lights, she let her guard down a little, and Beans once again detected that trace of an accent that he had found so sexy that he decided to nominate Ms. Levy for her new post. One of my relatives would like to meet with you to alleviate any distress, she told the executive. It may have occurred after my recent coming out of the pantry during my introduction as secretary. My auntie is the queen of a tropical island nation that would like to meet with you to discuss mutual interests. Your trip would be an easy jaunt for your first fact-finding tour overseas. It would be to Africa, a continent huge actually ignored by American presidents. It would be very secure. There is hardly any media on the entire island, and once you landed, your meeting would take place in a location of unparalleled secrecy. A few hours later, His Most Excellent Hillary F. Beans, by the grace of God, President of the United States, climbed onto Marine One for the short hop to Andrews, where he would board Air Force One for his first international trip to Madagascar. If President Beans had taken an Airbus A340, his trip would have taken 23 hours. On Air Force One, it took him 19 hours. He had a terrific dinner. Grilled beef tenderloin with fresh tomato salsa, a side of stewed pinto beans, fresh garlic toast, a garden salad, and a strawberry sundae for dessert. After dinner, Mr. Beans indulged himself before hitting the sack. He had the steward deliver the Air Force One humidor, chose a Ramon Allones specialty selected Robusto, and asked the steward to bring him a glass and the bottle of Facundo Exquisito Cuban rum. He finished the cigar and a quarter of the bottle before he fell smilingly asleep. In the morning, Mr. Beans enjoyed a breakfast of granola, strawberries, and yogurt, 3 small but excellent blueberry pancakes with Maine maple syrup, 2 sausage links, a small glass of orange juice, and a cup of very, very good coffee. For the rest of the morning, he worked on making changes to a number of potential bills that might be brought to the House of Representatives during his absence or soon after his return, and then enjoyed a light, hot snack of nachos smothered in chili and cheese with fresh pico de gallo and shredded lettuce. One of the best parts to eating on Air Force One for Mr. Beans was that he ate on special Air Force One china. All of the china used on the president's plane had gold borders and the presidential seal. Anything that began to look worn was destroyed, so the only people who could ever use it were the president or his passengers.